Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. Today is Thursday, June I don't know.
It's Juneteenth,
like
bro.
Juneteenth, June 19th. Of course it is. We were just talking about this. We were literally just talking about this.
Yeah.
And I had a brain fart. It's June 19th. Juneteenth. Happy June 19th,
Happy
Cecil.
Juneteenth, bro. We're recording on a day off for you.
We are recording on a day off. I keep wondering how much longer Juneteenth. So Biden is the one who declared that Juneteenth would be a federal holiday, a national federal holiday. And I keep wondering, when is that getting reversed?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because it's going to get reversed.
Right. There's a 100% chance.
What's interesting is like, it's going to get reversed. I wonder when MLK Jr. Day is going to get.
Yeah, right? Yeah, man. I wonder if it will get replaced with some like General Robert E. Lee Day or something. Like some horrible shit.
They'll keep the date of June 19th, but then they'll call it something else. Like,
I bet they will. I bet there's some horrible bigot that was born on June 19th. It's a big world full of big bigots.
I was going to pick a general, but I don't know if he's Confederate or Union. So I was just like, I don't know if that's, I was like, I don't know who's who.
You know what? Like what we've learned, I think.
I know that one, but I don't know anyone else.
Yeah, because there's a car named after him. That's all I know.
Which one was Stonewall Jackson?
Which side?
Which side?
Yes.
You don't even know. I don't know why. I'm like, I don't know. Is it Jackson? Yeah, Action Jackson. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, the one that was.
I don't even
looking
know.
it up.
I don't even know,
online.
man. I don't even know.
All right. So
speaking of picking sides, Tom.
So we're recording this on June 19th. When you're hearing this, we may be at war. We may not be at war. Who knows?
With who?
Iran and possibly others. Who knows? I keep doing this fun thing that I'll be doing for the next 4 years, which is constantly refreshing my news feed to discover what fresh hell awaits us every few hours. But Israel has begun an extensive bombing campaign across Iran on the premise of destroying Iran's nuclear weapons capability, right?
And there's been a back and forth because
Iran has retaliated.
Iran has been shooting missiles back into. There's been a bunch of images of the Iron Dome not being as iron as it was before because you're seeing some things get through.
Quite a lot gets through. So I've read a bunch of stuff on this because at first I was like, wow, I thought the Iron Dome was pretty impenetrable. But it's not. It was never actually designed for large-scale ballistic missile strikes. So it was designed primarily to prevent rockets, like the sort of like low-level, lower-quality rockets from penetrating. And it's very effective at that. For ballistic missiles, its effectiveness and interestingly, I thought, like the amount of munitions they have available to counter those ballistic missiles is running out.
Yeah.
So like it's the Iron Dome is not as effective at these ballistic missiles, and the number of munitions they have to prevent these things is running out. And it's happening kind of interestingly at the same time that many reports say Iran's capabilities are also running out to fire these missiles.
Sure.
So they're both sort of in this like time-based pissing match right now, which creates a huge amount of pressure, time pressure for the United States to make a decision about whether or not the United States is going to get actively involved rather than the sort of like passive involvement that we have in a support role, to get actively involved in dropping these massive bunker buster bombs. Which only the United States has, these giant 30,000 pound munitions that are dropped in succession on these like fortified spaces. So the question is whether or not we're going to do that. And then if we do that, what's like fucking step two on
what happens after that step?
A lot of, in Rumsfeldian terms, unknown unknowns.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown unknowns, aren't there? Yeah. And what happened was there's a lot of people talking about this. And yesterday on Tucker Carlson show, it was either yesterday or the day before, Ted Cruz was on, and there was a back and forth between the two of them. And I want to start the show today, Tom, by playing this clip. Now, this is a clip from Tucker Carlson's show And so we'll play it and then we'll talk about it after we listen to it.
Yeah.
This is something I saw had a lot of legs yesterday.
People living around, by the way.
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people living around?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
If you don't know anything about the country,
real quick, because all I care about right now is that Ted Cruz wears a pinky ring. Right, you guys, Ted Cruz wears a pinky ring. Is there anything, like if there's a moment in your life where you're like, Ted Cruz has reached maximum hateability.
Yeah.
And then you see a pinky ring on the man. And then you're like, oh, I thought we had reached peak hateability. Pinky ring.
I can't stop looking at the impressionist painting.
Oh my God.
Of Ronald Reagan.
Oh, and look, I think you've got the one-eyed guy back there, like to the right of it. So if you look at the right of Ronald Reagan, you've got eye patch.
Do you?
Is that eye
that's
patch?
What that is, or you think?
I feel like that's eye patch McGee.
I was thinking like this is Thatcher over here too.
It's hard to know who those support characters are.
There's definitely
in the smudgy smudge painting.
Behind him is the Scream guy who's just like, oh
no! behind every great Republican is the Scream.
All right, we're gonna keep playing.
Sorry, guys. Very serious stuff.
Say I don't know anything about.
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even. You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who claims
anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
They're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that,
we're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay. There's a lot to break out.
There is. Who's more punchable? That's my first question. Because it feels like I would normally say Ted Cruz. Easily say Ted Cruz. But when Tucker Carlson spazzes out, he is 1,000,000% more punchable. I hate Ted Cruz. I think you would stain your hand if you punched him. I hate everything about him.
Yeah.
I expect at any moment of the day for him to be looking into the camera and that black motor oil from The Fifth Element to run down his face.
Down his head.
Like I don't, like 100%, right? Like this guy is forged in like pure evil, but it's like the shit that's on the top.
Yes.
It's like the garbage, like flotsam of evil that's on the top. So it's all weak and not really put together well. Right. Like that's what I see Ted Cruz as. But when fucking Carlson freaks out, it's just like what you want to see is just somebody run by and just like patunk and just him just go and just fucking fold.
Dude, Ted Cruz is like a Voltron made of pool skimmings.
Yeah.
It's like all this
he's like
gunk assembles. He's just like,
he's like somebody tried to make a form something out of diarrhea.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is.
The unformed form. Like
form of diarrhea. Form of Ted Cruz.
Is there anything also easier than dunking on Ted Cruz?
I know, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, this is not a big deal, right? Yeah. Like if you are dunking on Ted Cruz, you're like, all right, cool story. I don't know what to say. Like it almost like if he wasn't a United States senator, it would be punching down, right? It would be mean.
You're right.
It would be mean.
If he wasn't in power, if he was just like a regular dude, you'd be like, oh man, come on.
Dude,
settle down,
come on.
man.
Like that guy's clearly not capable of having this conversation.
Down,
he wandered into the studio.
Yeah, settle down.
Somebody like gave him a shave and a haircut and put him in a chair.
And a pinky ring.
And a pinky ring. Who's more punchable? Can I choose? Can I clunk them both together until they're just juice?
If you could clunk both their heads together though, because they're both so soft,
there'd be no clunk sound.
There'd just be like a. It'd be like a. Yeah, it's like folding drapes. Like that's what it sounds like.
Folding like meaty drapes, though. You know, like wet meaty drapes.
Like beef curtains.
Not that pleasant. The thing is, like I would choose to punch Ted Cruz because he's in power, and so it's better. But in terms of like, which do I find more like viscerally loathsome? Like at like
that's
a
gut
level. Like that's hard, right? That's really hard.
That's why I said it. That's why I asked.
Do I want to eat a shit sandwich or a shit taco? I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I don't feel
taco,
like the
better accoutrement.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's true. Like I get a little cilantro on there.
Now,
okay. So the reason why we're talking about said,
the reason why we're talking about it is because
of the pinky ring.
Some of it is good. That we both think. I think the end of it is good.
Yeah,
but a lot of people are talking about it like there's this amazing moment between these two. And I can't believe I agree with Tucker Carlson, but like Tucker Carlson is asking trivia about Iran. It's not that don't get me wrong. I don't agree with Tucker Carlson. I don't agree with Ted Cruz. I think they're both loathsome, awful individuals. I don't agree with invading Iran. I think it's a terrible idea. I think it's really just a bad call on our part to get involved in this.
100%.
I think it's terrible. That being said, deciding military action with Ted Cruz because he doesn't know trivia about how many people live in a country to an exact number or exactly what their ethnic makeup isn't a good reason to think that Ted Cruz doesn't know anything about what's happening.
Right. Yeah. It's important to know important things. It's unimportant to know unimportant things. So if I am Ted Cruz and I'm a senator and I am going to be, the thing is, like, first of all, he may or may not even have any power to make decisions, right?
He could just be a war hawk, just sitting there doing war hawks.
But like, there is a very high likelihood that because of the way that the power has crept up to the executive branch, that Congress won't be involved in any decision-making capacity whatsoever.
Not for a while,
right?
Right? Certainly, unilateral power has been passed up to the president for a good long while before Congress can even step in.
So whether or not Ted Cruz happens to agree or disagree with the potential for military strikes in Iran may not even be like tactically relevant, right? Like the highest likelihood is that decision will be made by Trump. And then once we're involved, everybody's arm is already behind their back and twisted. And it's a question of like, what, you don't support the troops, blah, blah, blah. And like whether or not they're going to
support Trump.
Yeah, right. So yeah, exactly. That'll actually be the more important question for the right wing. But I do think it's really important to be like, look, I can agree. This is a fundamental point of, I think, skepticism in general and critical thinking in general. You can agree with somebody's conclusion, but it's also important to see whether or not you agree with how they arrived at their conclusion, right? The method that we get to arrive at our ultimate conclusion is, if we're thinking about whether or not we're good critical thinkers, good skeptics, it is more important than the conclusion, right? Especially with a binary choice.
Yeah.
A binary choice where things are not terribly nuanced, yay or nay. There can be 100 routes to get there. The way we arrive at our conclusion fundamentally matters as to whether or not we're being good thinkers, whether or not we have a good methodology, a trustworthy methodology to pass our fucking intellectual filter through. Yep. The problem here is that you probably don't actually agree with Tucker Carlson, right? I didn't know the population of Iran until I looked it up like yesterday or the day before. Why would I? If you'd asked me an hour before I looked up the population of Iran, do you think that we should invade Iran? I would have had an opinion about that. It does not need the population number for me to say, hey, I think this is likely to be a terrible idea. And here are my 10 reasons why. The 10 reasons matter more than this population issue matters, right? So the population question might be an issue if you were saying, hey, I'm not sure if like boots on the ground, this is winnable or not. But I don't think that that's actually a true relevant question.
I don't think that's what he's asking either.
I don't think that's why he's asking it, right?
Like he's not asking
like
because of suffering either. Right. I don't think. He's asking
for suffering or operational success.
Yeah.
That would be why the population might be useful to know.
There's a reason why you might need to know it.
Right.
But he's not asking that question.
Right.
He's asking a very broad question about something that you could interpret in many different ways.
Right. And the same is true of like the ethnicity question. Like if the ethnicity question is a lead-in to whether or not there is a significant opposition group that in a power vacuum could be supported to take charge during a regime change, that is a nuanced conversation that I think is worth having, right? It was a serious problem in other areas in the Middle East where regime change was the goal. It was a problem in 1979 when regime change took place in Iran itself. It's a legitimate question, but that was not what Carlson was doing. Carlson was intentionally looking for gotchas, and gotchas are rarely relevant. They're rarely useful. They're rarely like good decision-making. And like, again, like making a worm squirm isn't tough, right? Like Ted Cruz making him look foolish is like, all right, well, did you wake up?
Yeah.
You look foolish.
It's pretty easy. It's a real easy thing to do. I think, you know, the reason why we know that those questions were gotchas rather than a lead into a more salient point is because he never followed it with anything.
Right.
The only thing he did was say, answer my trivia question. You couldn't answer my trivia question, therefore you're wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that doesn't matter. That's not as big a deal. Now, the end of it is a big deal. The end of it where you're talking about, hey, are you doing it? Is Israel doing it? Who's the one who's pulling the strings? Who's the one who's taking credit? All that stuff is relevant. That's information that the United States people might need, but that also doesn't have anything to do with whether or not we should or shouldn't invade Iran.
Right. What that has to do is like genuinely, and I don't want to like overstate this, but I'm going to maybe overstate it. I don't think so. The we question is a question of shared reality.
Yeah.
Because when we say, are we invading Iran? I think most people would understand that we to mean the United States, the collective we that I am a part of and that you are a part of. The intentional obfuscation by Trump and his sycophants of we, which has been done over and over again over the last few days, where we gets to mean simultaneously the United States and or Israel. That is a way for the politicians in charge to obfuscate reality, to make what is real more slippery and less concrete.
Yeah.
That's super important because this is part of the rhetorical strategy that Trump has always used and is using right now to say, hey, we are currently, and he said it on Truths, right, or tweets or whatever. He said things like, you know, we are involved in this, like, you know, attack on Israel or on Iran, however he's phrased it. And then when he gets pushed on, he says, well, we means that Israel with our support or our backing. He gets to do that in a way that allows his supporters of military action to say, hey, we are doing this. And it also is a way for him to say, well, Israel is the one doing it. We are not doing it. So, and Tucker Carlson even says, but hey, when pressed, this guy said, you guys aren't doing any offensive action at all. The we is have your rhetorical cake and eat it too, appeal to both sides of the MAGA base, which is fractured right now on this question.
Well, and also it's something that Trump loves to do anyway, which is not commit to anything and try to collect as much approval as he can from all disparate sides.
Absolutely.
You've talked about this. Gosh, you've brought this up on a dozen other different things that he's talked about, that he has said, you know, like he's been sort of middle of the road. He'll say some things that allow him to take credit for two different things that are completely the opposite. We talked about it with the vaccines a lot, where he talked about, you know, like being both simultaneously in charge of Project Lightspeed, but then also saying, you know, both also on the other side of like an anti-vaccine, you know, COVID mindset because it allows him to collect as many followers as possible. And this does the same thing. I urge people, before you send your message and be like, but I agree with Tucker Carlson. It's like, you can agree with Tucker Carlson's conclusion about not going into Iran without agreeing with anything he says leading up to that.
Absolutely.
Right? You can agree with the conclusion because you've already formulated your own reasoning why you shouldn't do these sorts of things. There's no reason in that argument that he makes. There's not a reason in there. There's like Tom suggests, there's a gotcha moment where he has more knowledge about Iran than the person who he's arguing with. But that's not a reason. He's not giving you a premise, right? There's nothing to build on. It's just, you know a thing about it, then therefore, like if Ted Cruz answered and both those questions correctly, would that have changed Tucker Carlson's mind?
Right. Yeah. No, of course. No. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. Which is obviously, these are questions he figured would not be answerable because they require a level of specificity that seems relevant but isn't. And so the likelihood of somebody knowing him is low. And you know that that's the case because you could hear, and my God, if you watch the video, you could literally see the glee, the childlike glee.
He jumps. He's leaps.
Like,
he like leaps. He's like, he is such an imp. He is such a little imp though, isn't he? Oh, God, he's such an imp.
So like, yeah, when you get somebody and he does a fucking weird little like fucking masturbatory victory lap or whatever he's doing.
It's a victory giggle.
It's a victory giggle. Yeah. Like he can't even help it. His body gets all weird.
His body clenches up. Like he like seizes up.
Weird.
It's weird to watch.
It's weird to watch. That tells you that like he prepared these questions in advance as an intentional gotcha.
Yeah.
They were never intended to advance a conversation. They had no nuance. They don't strike at relevancy. They're just moments to be like, you look stupid. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, of course he looks stupid. He's Ted Cruz.
Yeah, he's Ted Cruz. It's easy.
All I want you guys to remember also when you see Ted Cruz, the most important thing to remember, I guess there's two important things that we should always remember. One is Pinkygate. Like that's
amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
And then always remember his Simpsons impressions that he did.
His Simpsons impressions, which is him just talking in a different, literally just talking in a different cadence.
He should never be able to run away from that.
It's the best. You have to do, I feel like if he is ever running for anything again, someone has to bring up the Simpsons impression.
It's all that we should play. We should just have all of our anti-Ted Cruz commercials should just be him doing Simpsons impressions and then be like, don't vote for this guy.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Join the mobile infantry and save the world. Service guarantees citizenship.
This story comes from the New Republic. Trump's military parade was a pathetic event for a pathetic president.
Did you see any of the clips or anything like that?
I saw a bunch of photos.
Photos. I saw photos. It's easy to manipulate photos nowadays where you just play until you see less people and you take a picture and stuff. The way this is described is there's a lot of people sort of milling about, and they did sort of make their way up to the front by this sort of, this stage area a couple times. Once when Trump and Vance spoke, another time when there was a couple other things going on. But it's really just sort of it was sort of a big sort of plot where a bunch of people were walking around and there was sort of a parade going by that people had a varying degree of interest in.
Right.
And in the end, when you looked at the pictures, the sort of selective pictures I saw, it looked pretty low turnout. It didn't look amazing. They were expecting lots of people, and several pictures I showed so that many of even the security checkpoints weren't even full of people, that sort of thing. But I also got a chance to watch a little bit of MSNBC that day. After I came back from the No Kings protest, I was watching a little bit of TV, and it looked like there was quite a few people roaming around there. It wasn't like it was empty, right?
Right.
So, and I think that there's this need and want of people to be like, it was empty, no one was there, nobody saw anything, and he had a terrible day and all that. It's like, no, there was people there, and there was a lot of diehard people there too.
I think it's really dangerous for us to mock the size of to look at this kind of stuff and mock this kind of thing. I think it's really dangerous because The conclusion you would then be likely to draw is that we on the left do not face stiff opposition.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
And that's not the case.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
We just lost the election.
Just fucking lost, bro.
We just lost 8 months ago, 9 months ago, whatever it was. We just lost the election. This is not some fringe group. 4 million people or whatever showed up and voted for this guy. By and large, when polled, some of his policies, I should say by and large, some of his policies when polled are still more popular than you on the left might imagine or like to believe that they are. Yeah. His anti-immigration policies for his supporters on the right are still broadly supported. It is a mistake to look at his stupid fucking parade, which took place on a shitty rainy day also, which affects things.
Yeah, also, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like, and to laugh at him as if this was like impotent. There was nothing impotent about it. He wanted this parade. He got his parade. He wanted to flex his military. He got to flex his military. He got the things he wanted. He is still supported by 50% or more of the U.S. population.
Sure. A lot of people.
Like, when we laugh at this, we, I think, diminish the power of this thing rather than recognize the power of this thing and undermine it.
Yeah. And that leads us to the conversation about the No Kings protest.
Yeah.
So I got an opportunity to go to this protest this last weekend. There was a bunch of people all over. I didn't get a chance to make it into Chicago. I had other stuff I had to do that day, so I couldn't drive all the way to Chicago. And that's like a whole day to like drive all the way down, park, go to the protest, and then you spend much of your day, traveling to and from Chicago. It's a whole thing. So I decided to go to a local one instead. And I thought, let's go to the local one. We'll just head over there and we'll spend our time and we'll go there, before it starts. We'll stay until after it's over and we'll just, we'll be there. And so we get in the car and we start riding down a more populated road here. It's one of the busier roads around here. And this protest was supposed to be at this corner down the road. Like it's a corner of this busy road and another busy road. Randall and another road. Randall and starts with an F. I forget the name of it. And so we're driving and we are over a mile away, and it's still before the protest is supposed to take place. Mm-hmm. And I look on the right and I see protesters.
That's awesome.
And I turn to Sarah and I'm like, is this counter protesters? Because we're far away from where they should be. So I thought, maybe these are counter protesters. But I looked and I was like, that's a lot of people. I was like, I have a hard time believing that's the same amount of people would all like that there would be counter protesters like that. So I was like, let's just pull in. We'll pull in because it's all shopping centers. It's all like strip mall type stuff all along there. It's all big shopping stores all next to each other. And so I was like, well, let's just pull into the parking lot. We'll park and then we'll walk over. And if it's not, and if it's fucking Trump supporters, then I get an opportunity to jaw somebody for a minute.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, cool. So I walk over and it's all this No Kings protest. And it's all the way down. We were about I would say maybe 3/4 of a mile from the corner.
Wow.
So I would say about 3/4 of the mile. It's almost a full mile to where the protest got. It was almost a mile long worth of people alongside the road. And we're talking like, not just like onesie twosie, like there was people along the road, but then there was people on the hill behind us. So it was like people were packed in around us. And so we got out, and we just started protesting, and we met the people next to us, and we met the other people, and we're laughing and whatnot. And in the beginning, there was a lot more people who were flipping us off and like, yelling at us. One guy, so one guy rolled by, admittedly, he rolled by and he slowed down. He's like, fuck you. And I was like, step up, bitch. And he didn't slow down. He didn't slow down. But it was really interesting to see because you're in it, like in the beginning, people were moving relatively quickly by. So there's like moving quickly by. And so a lot of people flipping you off and stuff like that. Not a lot, not as many as I thought.
But you live in a fairly conservative space.
There's a lot of people honking and a lot of people doing the thumbs up and honking. But then there was some people who would flip you off. But what started happening, and one guy slowed down and he was like, he rolled down in his window and he's like, ice, ice, baby.
Oh my God.
And then he just rolled on and kept going. But like, as the traffic started to slow, because there's a light up there. So the traffic starts slowing. Well, as the traffic starts slowing, what you do is you see people down the road that are moving quickly, flipping people off. But then as the cars start to slow, the window goes up, right? And you'll see people, once it got really slow,
right?
What you saw was just angry looks that wouldn't even look at you, or they'd be in the other lane because it's a 2-lane road going one way and 2 lane. It's a 4-lane highway. 2 lanes, they'd be in the far left lane doing a thumbs down as they drove by, but they're not close to you,
enough,
right?
Yeah.
So what I got a chance to see was, and I will say, every single one of the dudes who did this looked exactly the same.
Sure.
They all had the same sunglasses, the same haircut,
and how many were dudes?
Truck. It was interesting because I did see women doing the same thing too. There'd be a lot of couples in cars.
Okay.
Maybe they bonded over that. I don't know. But they were like doing the thumbs down stuff. But there was so many people. I was really impressed by how many people were honking, how many people were thumbs up, how many people were like, involved. And it was a really interesting way to protest because what I'm used to is you go to the middle of Chicago, there's no counter protest. Right. There's nobody, you're not going to get a bucket full of, Proud Boys coming in to counter protest 20,000 people. Right. They won't do that. They'll be like, those people are too cowardly to show their face in Chicago, right? So when you go to Chicago, everybody's on the same team, baby. Right. Everybody's just like, it's like fucking party down. Everybody's, walking around screaming and whatever, and you're having a great time. When you're out in the suburbs, there's a different feel. There's a back and forth, and you're also in one place. And people come to you constantly and are coming by. So it's a totally different feeling to protest here versus Chicago. But when you looked at the numbers of people that were here and then all over the place, Naperville had a bunch of people. Elgin had a bunch of people. And you start counting all these things up and they added it all up. And it was like millions of people came out to this thing. And it was all over the country, which is a really great thing.
That response that you were describing so reminds me of Office Space, where that engineer.
We said the same thing.
He's like, he's listening to Ghetto Boys. He's got it blasted up. And then as soon as like the traffic slows down and like somebody like comes up beside him, like rolls his window up and he gets all quiet.
He turns his music down.
And then he's like,
Ghetto
who's looking?
Boys, Ghetto
Boom.
Boys.
And he like blasted as soon as I'm safe, I'm a tough motherfucker. What's up?
It's amazing.
It's so fucking funny.
Literally the same thing.
Were you nervous at all about the cars driving in? Like, was that like something that like is on your mind? Like about people driving into the crowds?
So where I was standing, there's 25 feet of grass between you and the street.
Okay.
So if someone were to like turn and veer, you have a little time to do something about it. So people were going by slow. They weren't going by very quickly. Especially after once the protest started, it was people were going by relatively slow. So you would see if someone turned.
Someone was like trying to drive
into you. You would see somebody you would see that happen. They also had people very specifically in vests walking up and down, making sure you didn't go on the grass. They were like, they did not want anybody close to the road. So they did a good job of keeping everybody separate from the road. There was a couple people that went by that were like, had Trump flags on, but then there was one dude who had a big ass truck and he looked a lot like those guys, but he had an FDT on the back. So fuck Donald Trump flag that looked like their flag that he was flying around. There was another guy who had his Donald Trump flag out his moonroof in his SUV and his windows rolled up and he went around the block 3 or 4 times, but he was completely shielded away just to show everybody that he like had nothing better to do. Like neither did we. We didn't have anything better to do that day either, but he very much didn't have anything. He could have at least been at home watching a parade.
Right.
He didn't even do that. He was there to antagonize other people. Like he sets his whole life up around antagonizing other people. So
I think like we've talked about protests before, and I think that there is an enormous value to the energy, because like energy is
contagious.
Like it is. Yeah. That's exactly right. There's a contagious element to it. And like, I think if you are looking around and you think, God, I'm the only one, you feel defeated. Like that is also contagious. Right. And that, like, if we're looking at like making change, do the protests on today, like, is anything going to happen as a result of today? like in isolation, maybe not, right? And it can be very easy to be, and I have been, to be cynical about these things, right? Because it's like, all right, well, everybody protested, then everybody went home, and the world is still spinning into chaos, right? So like, what was the value of that? Well, the value of that is at the midterms, right? The value of that is like when we start flipping school boards at local elections. Yeah. The value of that is, as you've pointed out, the networking locally of like-minded people who start running for local office, who start making a difference, who start canvassing neighborhoods, who start plugging into these different community and grassroots organizations to feed that machine. These are big machines, and they require the energy of the citizenry in order for them to be active.
Yeah.
So I think that and also like, if there is not this giant energy on this side, what it will look like to all the world is that the United States broadly supports this shit.
Yeah.
I also was thinking like, there's an enormous amount of credibility loss internationally that the United States has suffered. And I think that when tens of millions of people show up across the country, the rest of the world can say, okay, maybe that's a fascist blip, right? And we will maybe be able to regain and rebuild some of that international trust and goodwill.
Not all Americans belong in this pile.
Yeah. That's important.
It's the first day of summer, and if you're a comer, then don't be a bummer, so do something funner that you'll also be saying yummer when getting or giving a hummer, especially if you're a gummer. Okay, I can't do this anymore. Gary, I'm not reading this. Why are you just staring at me? Tell the people you wrote this. Gary, tell the people. Get on the mic, Gary. Don't mime that you can't hear me. I know you can hear me. No. Don't pretend to be taking an elevator. Don't crouch down behind the console. I don't even know how you're doing that. You don't have bendable knees. What? I didn't mean anything by it. Okay, I did mean something by it. Because if you had bendable knees, you'd be slutting it up at the glory hole, Gary. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, I read the script. Okay, I can't do this anymore. What the fuck, Gary? Tell the people, bendable knees, huh? Slutting it up? How the hell did you wrong with that? How the hell, Gary? You had everything I just said in the script already. You're a demon, Gary, a fucking demon. What? And if you want to save D-money, Jesus Christ, Gary, D-money, then you will go to adamandeve.com and use code GLORY to get 50% off almost any one item, plus 3 free gifts, a gift for you, a gift for them, and a gift you'll both enjoy, plus 6 free spicy movies and free and discreet shipping. So don't be a dumber. Get that sex toy up in your tummer. What does that even mean, tummer? God damn it, Gary. Yes, I know. Use code GLORY, for fuck's sake. Happy Zummer. You had to write it with a Z so I didn't repeat a word, didn't you, Gary? Yeah, okay. Fucking idiot. Code GLORY.
Now I'm in your ass, yeah. I'm fucking you. Oh,
This story's from Newsweek. Joe Rogan regular apologizes for supporting Trump, calls for his impeachment.
So let's play this clip. This is Dave Smith. I love that they don't even name him. That's fucking amazing to me, by the way. But this is a guy named Dave Smith. We've covered him on the No Rogan Experience. He was on with a guy named Douglas Murray.
Real quick, I'm sorry. Maybe not in the clip, but in the story, they name him in the first.
Oh, I know, but they did in the headline. In the headline, they didn't even bother.
Right, just a regular.
It's just like they in the headline, they don't even bother to mention who he is. They're just like, he's just he's only knowable because he's a fucking Joe Rogan pilot.
He's relevant through. Yeah, exactly. Like he's relevant through his parasitism.
He orbits Joe Rogan, and therefore we know it. So anyway, so here's Dave Smith. This is on a pretty widely popular internet show that he's on called Breaking Points. And so he's on talking about Donald Trump. He had backed Donald Trump in the last election. And so this is his comment.
About coming back to the negotiating table. It's like sitting after Pearl Harbor and telling FDR, now's the time to go negotiate with the Japanese. Right. Negotiations are over now. The time for negotiations was before this. And so, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one. Wow. And not on some not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of, corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say, despite the fact that, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So it's just a devastating mistake. By the way, on top.
I'm so confused actually by most of what he said.
I want to focus on the first thing. One thing first. Do you know how politics works? Like, do you think that you can just impeach him because he did something you disagree with?
It's a high crime and misdemeanor to do what I don't like.
You have to do something in order to be impeached, right? Like his phone call to the Ukraine, impeachable offense. His inciting of a riot, impeachable offense. In fact, we know they were impeachable offenses because he got impeached for those things.
Interesting.
So you can't just be like, well, I don't like what he's doing. So he needs, there's a reason you should never listen to people like this.
Yeah.
And one of them is they don't understand how fucking anything works, right? Sit down and fucking eat it.
Yeah.
You know what? You ordered it. Yep. I'm going to make you sit there and fucking eat it. Because you know what? Just because you don't we don't have a system like a no confidence system here in the United States.
Yes.
We have a guy who you have to trust for 4 fucking years. And if you can't trust him, don't put your fucking name on him, stupid. What the fuck is wrong with you? And here's this asshole who spent the last fucking year screaming about how great Donald Trump was and how you should vote for him. And he does one thing he disagrees with. And he's like, well, I should fucking prosecute him through Congress. You don't even know what you're talking about, man.
Dude, everything look, when the minute Joe Biden was elected, the right was like, we got to impeach him. And that never went anywhere for exactly the point that you're making. That's not how impeaching works. But I think that the right has tricked everybody into thinking that impeachment is no confidence.
Yeah, right.
But that's not a thing. That, like we've talked about, the urgency of getting this right is specifically because we don't have a no confidence.
We don't have the power to do anything.
So, whatever we do, we're in it for the next fucking 4 years. I don't understand literally anything Dave Smith said. He leads off by saying something along the lines of, we're past the time for negotiations. It's like you can't negotiate with the Japanese after Pearl Harbor. I genuinely don't understand what he's talking about.
I think he's talking about once you start bombing Iran, you can't go back to them and be like, well, now let's negotiate.
But I guess to me, one, that doesn't make sense because, of course you can. You literally negotiate a surrender in war. So
what he's saying doesn't make sense.
I don't understand
that is his approach. And what's amazing is all of them agree, too, by the way.
Everybody's just like, yeah, that's a true fact. And I'm just like, that's literally, actually, to be honest, there is probably no greater leverage point than at the point of a gun.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that at all.
What they're saying doesn't make sense.
Right.
But I think that's the context in which they're saying.
And there's that phrase, the cannon is the last argument for kings.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've run out of other arguments. Here's the bullets now, right?
Yeah.
It's still an argument, man. So I don't understand his first point. Then his second point where he's like, yeah, you got to impeach him. We got to get rid of him. He said he wasn't going to do this. I'm confused. We haven't done anything yet.
That's the other thing.
It's fucking June 19th. It is. This could change. It's June 19th. It's 10:45 a.m. Okay. So when this comes out, we have done something. Forgive me. We're recording in advance. But as of the moment we're recording, and as of the moment Dave Smith is screaming, right? Yeah. Check the Times headline because I literally do it every hour like a crazy person now to see if we're at war.
No, NPR just sent me a Juneteenth thing. So
okay, so we're not at war.
There's no way it's going to be.
But we have not done anything different. We've always supported Israel. We continue to support Israel. We have not dropped a single bomb. We've not sent a single troop in. We've not sent a single warplane over Iran. Literally, we've done nothing different than the thing we did last week when you supported it.
Impeachable offense.
So I don't understand what he's even upset about.
I don't know what he's mad about either.
He's going to lose his coalition. He hasn't made a decision.
Yeah.
Lose his coalition over what? A future crime? What's happening, precog?
This guy is the worst. And what I hate about everything is that this is a guy who's got a massive audience, who frequently guests on a podcast with 20 million plus people, and people think this is a knowledgeable person. He's a fucking dummy.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how anything works. And there's a swath of people out there who are going to listen to him on this stuff.
Yeah.
Look, man, do I think Donald Trump should be impeached? Yeah, for the stuff he did.
Right, yeah,
For
I
the
know.
bad stuff he did, yeah, but you voted for me in spite of all those things.
Him making a military decision is likely well within his rights as the commander-in-chief, whether I agree with the decision he makes or not. It's like, I am enjoying to some degree because it is politically and pragmatically useful. I am enjoying what appears to be potentially the tearing asunder of the right.
Sounds great.
Tucker Carlson fighting Ted Cruz is to my advantage.
Elon Musk fighting other people.
Elon Musk fighting with people on the right is to my advantage. This Dave Smith guy,
but it's back and forth.
Right, yeah. Who knows what he's really doing? Like he'll do whatever.
He's posting his drug tests online now. I don't know if you've seen this.
Have you seen this? That's not what.
So he's posting yesterday or 2 days ago. He posted a urinalysis of his drugs that was clean, supposedly. I mean, fucking, it's a picture he took and posted online.
You can just get anybody pissed for.
Doesn't necessarily mean
he got people to play video games for him.
I know, right? It's the same guy who's playing his video games.
He's the richest man in the world. He can't buy actual urine.
And then the other one was his hair test. So the hair follicle test he posted yesterday.
Sure.
But it's like he's posting them to show everybody he's not on drugs. And he also, I think, attacked some people in the Trump administration. There's like a back and forth.
Of course there
all these people, yeah.
But like, I will say, like, I have been hopeful that the MAGA movement would be powerful enough to break the right apart.
Yeah.
And I think there's a possibility that might happen. It certainly appears to be happening. I was curious. I wanted to talk to you about this. This is something that occurred to me yesterday. I wonder, Cecil, if the MAGA movement won't slip out of control of Trump. That MAGA, and I think this because Marjorie Taylor Greene is so opposed to the potential involvement of the U.S. military in Iran that she said something that really struck me. She said something like, any involvement by the U.S. military in Iran is a violation of America First and MAGA. And I thought, I wonder if MAGA itself will slip out of control of Trump.
Could.
And if that happens, will the fracturing of the right, because then Trump...
Then it's complete.
Right.
Then it's complete. Yeah. Then they've killed the emperor.
Exactly.
In Star Wars.
Right.
Then Darth Vader has picked up the emperor and body slammed him into a fucking reactor. That's basically what's happened.
Do you think there's a possibility for that?
If that happens, sure. I don't know if it'll happen. One thing I know about Trump more than anything is that he cannot stand to be low ratings.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what, he will capitulate with his party eventually. For a long time, I think he's been controlling that group of people. But I think if he sees his numbers seriously start to wane, he will change course and then say, that's what I wanted all along.
Yeah.
I think that he will do anything to make sure that he doesn't lose that group of people.
I was thinking about like when he instituted the tariffs and he was all like, it's Liberation Day, fucking 1,000,000% tariffs everywhere, right? And then like pretty quickly, the bond market reacted in a way that scared him and he immediately kind of rolled all that shit back, right? He's responsive to your point.
And he'll say that's what I wanted the whole time, or I needed to do that in order to prove a point.
Part of my negotiation, etc.
A democratic republic being overthrown by fascist thugs. They think that socialism is a bigger threat than fascism. Not for long.
Tom, let's talk about this murder that occurred in Minnesota. There's a bunch of stories here, but mainly the main stories from the BBC talking about the murder itself, where there was a shooting suspect who shot two politicians. One died. One was in critical condition, and I think they've started to get better.
Did he shoot 4 people?
Shot 4 people. Yeah. That's right, and a dog.
I didn't know he shot a dog.
I thought he shot a dog.
Fucking
too.
shit.
Yeah, and then Mike Lee, a congressperson, said some things about this, basically blaming it on the far left, and had to roll that back. And then there's also been some leaking of who this person is and how they're sort of a very far right Christian evangelical figure who's like a fire and brimstone type person. Yeah. And there's images of them preaching, but it's violence again, political violence that we're seeing in this country. And craziness that happens around it. And then like that Mike Lee thing where he's blaming it on Democrats, there's this spin immediately when something happens to try to blame the other side, to try to say, oh no, look at what happened. Look at what happened. Look at what happened. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. And now, I don't know if you saw this, but Trump won't even call the governor.
Yeah, I did see that because he hates Tim Walz
because
so
he ran against him. So he won't even talk to him.
Yeah. The effect here is so knowable from the causation, right? There's an inevitability that we absolutely need to understand the causation from here. This is no different than storming the Capitol. This is no different than breaking into Nancy Pelosi's house and beating her husband with a hammer. This is no different than right-wing extremists taking pot shots at the president himself or a presidential candidate.
Mailing like pipe bombs to people.
Yeah. This is the inevitable result of a rhetoric that is existential and violent in nature, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't really... I don't want to say it doesn't matter. This is also grounded. There's an interesting article from The Atlantic that we'll post in the show notes about the radical spiritual world. We've talked about this before. I truly believe completely that this is the result of the religious language. And when I say religious, I mean American Christian nationalism, the religion. That language has become increasingly violent. The rhetoric within that religious ideology has become increasingly violent, and it's violent and existential. So the wording that they're using is words like, we are at war with an ideology on the left. We are at war with wokeism. We are at war with it. They are talking about these things in existential terms. Yeah.
These people are evil. They want to hurt you.
It's Gavin New scum.
Yeah.
Right? These are bad people. We have painted them as villains. We have vilified and demonized them. That American Christian nationalism is its own religion now.
Yeah.
It is a amalgamation of Christian religious fundamentalism combined with non-Christian nationalist fundamentalism. And those things are now like peanut butter and chocolated together into a new kind of violent movement.
And I think one thing you have to remember is that when something like this happens, if it happens and the person just happened to be on the left, it isn't because of the violent rhetoric they're fed every day.
Right.
If it happens on the right, you expect it because of the violent rhetoric they're fed every day. So you got to think about it in those terms, right? It's not like if somebody was doing this on the left, it's like, in spite of the things you've done a bad thing, right? In spite of the things that you claim to believe, you've done a bad thing,
right?
But if it's a violent person on the right, you're like, well, that's what they've been doing. That's how they've been cultivating this group of people. Why wouldn't they act in this way?
Yeah, if you are painting for people a world in which their very existence is threatened. And that's what the right is doing. They are saying you are in danger. When they talk about immigration, this is a great example. They talk about immigration. They are not saying, hey, here are some economic reasons. This is not primarily the language they're using right now. These economic reasons why we think immigration should be curtailed. They aren't making arguments like that. What they're making arguments is these are violent, dangerous people who will literally kill you.
Yeah.
They will literally eat your pets if they live in your town. They will literally kill, murder, and rape you. And we know that because they talk about them and say, these are rapists. These are killers. These are murderers. These are, people who are part of a foreign invasion. The language they're using, if you internalize any of it, requires this kind of response. Yeah. It's like the abortion question. We talked about this before. If I truly in my heart, Cecil, believed that an abortion was the same thing as murder, I would be morally compelled to do everything in my power to stop somebody from being murdered. If you said next door, Tom, is a home where murders are taking place, I could not wake up in the morning and be like, I'm not doing anything about that.
Oh, well.
Right? I would not be morally allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Because we use language that is so specific and hyperbolic and violent, it requires this kind of action.
You are here by my consent.
This is a personal vendetta.
You will abide by our rules, Senator, or be removed. Is that understood? Is that understood?
The senator speaks the truth.
The stories from everywhere. This specifically KTLA 5, but you can find it anywhere. Senator Alex Padilla forcibly removed and handcuffed after confronting DHS Secretary Noem during press conference. So literally was just asking questions.
Yeah, just asking a question.
At a press conference.
Yeah. As a senator.
As a senator. Identified himself as a senator.
And then dragged right outside. Yep. Put on his stomach and then cuffed and walked away.
Yep.
They took him into custody. This is
it's not the first or second time.
No, this is a frightening turn of events. This is one of those things that you hear and see and think, this is how you silence the opposition.
100%, man.
And I'm glad that a bunch of people are speaking out about it, but people need to know about it, and people need to know it happened, and people need to be on the offensive. I mean, like, there are places even in blue states where we're seeing things like this happen. And so, understand that the group of people who control the law enforcement in this country, they are pretty unified, right? It doesn't matter whether they're in a blue state, they're in a red state, they're in a whatever state, it doesn't matter. That group's pretty unified.
Yeah.
So we've got to be cautious, but I think we've also got to be aware that this stuff is happening. And then, you've got to just have a unified front and you can't let this be the thing that makes you shut up.
No, yeah. And think about, too, that Alex Padilla is one of the 100 most powerful people in this country.
Yeah.
There's 100 U.S. senators. He is one of the most powerful people. And if he can be silenced by the jackboots of the state this easily, what does that say about every other activist, every other citizen, every other official within the press? The press has been targeted during protests. They've been intentionally shot during protests with these non-lethal rounds, with tear gas canisters. They've been intentionally seen, recognized, and arrested.
Yeah.
The shutting down of speech is a tool of authoritarianism. It is one of the requirements of authoritarianism to take hold.
Yeah.
So when Alex Padilla gets arrested, you look at that guy and you say, wow, if that guy can get silenced during a press conference, everybody is silenced.
What can they do to me?
Yeah.
What can they do to me? Do I have an entire group of 48 other people who might call somebody to make sure I get released later?
Right. Yeah.
Powerful people, as powerful as, me. No,
yeah. And later, Noem said, well, he should have identified himself. And I thought, that shouldn't be necessary. In a press conference, it should not matter who you are. If you're there with credentials, you should be able to ask questions without the jackboots of the state ejecting you forcibly from that press conference.
These people have been abusing their power since they got in as much as possible.
As much as possible.
As much as possible. I don't know if there's any kind of thing that can happen to them after they're done that holds them to account. I don't know if there is something, because these people are all rich and they'll continue to be rich and wealthy and respected in their communities well after if this administration goes away eventually, and say things even change for the better, and there's a Democratic administration in there, these people won't ever be held to account for any of the bad things that they've done so far, right? Essentially the kidnapping of a fucking senator right in front of everybody because they didn't want to have to hear the questions. These people will never be, there's nothing that can happen to them after it's all over. They're going to continue to be rich and successful after everything changes, if it changes.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this in a long form episode down the road, but it's really important to remember that you're only afraid of questions when you know that your answers are insufficient.
Yeah.
You get to drink from the fire hose! Okay, you ready? Open wide!
All right, so let me play this. This is from an article called turning up the propaganda hose to full blast. Carlson attacks Fox News in Bannon interview. So this is, you not only get to watch fucking Tucker Carlson, you also get to watch fucking Baron Harkonnen here.
Jesus Christ,
this guy. So remember that imp thing I was talking about earlier?
Yeah.
He turns it up to 11 on this.
God.
Well, Levin's the funniest because he's terrible on TV. And again, I never had any problems with him at Fox. He kind of controls Hannity in this weird way. I never understood what that was about. I never really cared to learn. Sean was great to me, always nice. And so was Levin. So I just like kind of stayed away. But they didn't want to put him on TV because he's like screechy and he's just not a calming presence. Michael on TV! Like, unless you're literally floating in and out of consciousness and the attendant has taken the remote to go have a cigarette, you're going to flip the channel when Michael gets on TV. It's like listening to your ex-wife scream about alimony payments. It's like not appealing. So they wouldn't put him on TV. And then, Sean pushed and they gave him some kind of weekend show that nobody watched. Now I don't have a TV, but someone was just who owns a TV was just telling me that he's like all over prime time. So what is that? That's not by popular acclaim. That's not like their viewer surveys. Like, we need a lot more Mark Levin. Less Jesse Waters, more Mark Levin. Mark Levin! What they're doing is what they always do, which is just turning up the propaganda hose to full blast and just trying to, knock elderly Fox viewers off their feet and make them submit. This is
Cecil. Has there ever been a more sour grapes motherfucker?
Can we watch his joke not land for a third time really quickly? Let's watch his joke not land for a third time when
Steve Bannon's face.
When he tries to do this is his third try at doing the Mark Levin that he laughs out loud at and nobody else even thinks is remotely funny.
I don't have a TV.
I love that he doesn't have a TV too, by the way. Like, that's also awesome where he's like, I'm very sophisticated. I was on television for many years, but I don't actually own a television.
Real quick. He spent his entire life trying to be famous on TV.
Yeah.
He gets fired from Fox and comes home and throws away all his TVs in a petulant rage.
He's like that guy, Kirk Cameron in that movie where he was beaten off. He's beaten off, so he throws his computer away. It's like, I can't stop fucking jerking off.
I'm jerking off as I'm throwing the computer
jerking
away.
Off so much. Like every day I just gotta jerk it and jerk it and jerk it. And this computer is tempting me every moment of my existence. And so he throws it away. And so I want you to pay attention though to his third try at trying to make Steve Bannon laugh. Who's a joyless individual anyway?
What a tough crowd.
God, that's a rough crowd.
Less Jesse Waters, more Mark Levin. Mark Levin! What they're doing.
What happened? What is happening? Tucker Carlson, guys, like he makes this like joke. He makes his joke. Then he has like some kind of spastic attack and points and laughs and his face scrunches up like a 7-day-old donut. He looks fucking crazy. He looks crazy. He looks like somebody put googly eyes on an old glazed donut when he laughs. It's like it just kind of collapses on itself and looks squishy.
He's like one of those like I'm sure you did this with your brother where like you try to get underneath somebody's nerves. You try to get in somebody's nerves. Like you try to just like dig at him and dig at him. I did that with my brother's like crazy where you just dig at him and dig. That's what he feels like he's doing.
100%.
Like he's just like he's trying to dig and trying to hurt somebody's feelings because like he's like an emotional toddler.
He is.
He's like somebody gave a toddler a dictionary and they read it really well.
Yeah, man. Like this is like he is absolutely somebody like in the backseat of the car on a road trip with your brother. You're bored. You've got nothing left to do. So you're just trying to get under each other's
skin. Him and
skin.
Mark Levin are deciding whose side of the car needs to be on. There's a piece of tape, like a fucking Odd Couple, where there's like masking tape. You put your feet on my side.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
Amazing, dude. It's fucking amazing to watch this guy fucking melt down though.
Oh,
like
God,
this.
it's great.
He's such a I don't watch a lot of Tucker Carlson.
Thank God.
I gotta say, I feel like I lucked out having to watch Joe Rogan instead of Tucker Carlson.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. Could you imagine?
I literally could not imagine.
I could not imagine.
If you said to me like, would you like to be like a fucking Victorian era mudlark, like trolling the banks of the Thames and like getting diseases for a living, or would you rather listen to Tucker Carlson?
Yeah,
I would 100% be like, let's go back to the great stink. Let me wade up to my knees in human feces and filth.
Swim in that. Yeah,
I would do that.
Yeah.
Every day and twice on Sunday instead of listening to Tucker Carlson. We've listened to less than 3 actual minutes of Tucker Carlson today, and I feel sick to my stomach.
I'm ready to pull all of my hair out. Like Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon, by the way, looks like he has every disease.
Steve Bannon looks like somebody reanimated a liver spot.
It does. He does. He's seriously like, I've never, like, if you put Steve Bannon and Mitch McConnell in the same room, like they both look maximally unwell.
Steve Bannon looks like all that cancer that they get to live in Petri dishes came to life. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the show this week. We're going to be back on Monday with a full show. We'll have a patron show out soon. And we're going to catch you next time. And we're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter.